we've got this horrendous pandemic, COVID, and we don't know where it's going. We don't know if it's going to get better or not get better. It's led to these incredible economic scenarios and conditions that people are facing, mostly working and poor people, but everybody in this country and around the world. We have all these issues involving systemic racism that have been raised as a result of the George Floyd situation. And we seem to have this growing lack of trust in government, which has probably always been an undercurrent in America, but it's much more serious now than it's been before. So given all these things, these what I call asteroids that are hitting the political side of the world, how does this change presidential politics from what we have experienced before? And I think I'm going to start with Tamara because she was on first, and then I'm going to go to Rachel afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is bigger than a lack of faith in government. I think that there is a degradation of faith in institutions more broadly in this country. And obviously that is not a new development. It's something that's been growing. And it gets to the church. It gets to the press, clearly. And government as well. And when you combine a lack of faith in institutions with a really scary pandemic, when people just want facts, you end up with something really challenging. And obviously the current president, President Trump, sort of relishes in trashing institutions in a way that presidents don't typically do. Presidents don't typically sort of go out, spread conspiracy theories about their own government while they're leading it. So it creates this really unusual dynamic that I'm not sure exactly what it means for the election, but I will say that there is something that is showing up in polling and elsewhere, which is that people are simply exhausted. People are exhausted by the pandemic. They are exhausted, especially people of color, by the systemic racism. And people are sort of exhausted by the daily drama that comes from the White House. Including Trump supporters are exhausted by the daily drama that gets picked up in the I wish he would tweet less, which is something that we've been hearing for a long time. But, there is a difference between a candidate for president and someone who has been president for 3.5 years.
Rachel, you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I'm increasingly interested in the 30,000-foot view. I mean, as a political scientist in my training before I became an election nerd, female election forecaster making predictions and horse racing stuff. I mean, that stuff is kind of like a byproduct from the work that I do, which is deeply theoretical and really grounded in voter behavior, voter psychology, and particularly in the area of political polarization. And so when we think about like the decline in trust of institutions and government, the decline in trust of the press, those are things that they didn't just evolve naturally. They were products of like political choices that were made by political actors, right? So we have the emergence of re-emergence really of partisan news, coming in the talk radio and then cable news and then the internet. And we have campaign, like our American campaign system is very unique. I don't think most Americans realize that most countries don't have a Wild West, 2-year-long campaign process where you can kind of just say whatever you want or do whatever you want to. And those things have really eroded public confidence. So it's not like the public just kind of naturally came to this really cynical place, right? It's a product of 30 or 40 years of really heavy, advertising and media focus on kind of spoiling the idea of trust in institutions. And, I'm increasingly looking too at the 244 years that the Republic's been in function as a very short time window. We've had one near miss of the collapse in the Civil War. And as somebody who studies political polarization, we are seeing behaviorally a lot of overlap. When I'm going up to DC right after this interview for an interview, and the election that I'm comparing 2020 to is not 2016. It's 1860. So I should tell you a little bit about what's going on here in 2020.